Namo Buddhaya, Namo Amitabhaya. Hello everyone. So today we continue to discuss the life of the Buddha, and we're up to the seventh stage of the Buddha's manifestation. That's turning the Dharma Wheel. Okay, so most people know about the story how after Shakyamuni Buddha realized enlightenment, he sat under the Bodhi tree for 49 days, and then he went to Sanas to first turn the Dharma Wheel to his very first 5 disciples. So most people know about this story as the first turning of the Dharma Wheel. But from the Mahayana perspectives, actually the Buddha had already begun to turn the Dharma Wheel while he was sitting under the Bodhi tree for 49 days while he was in meditation. So in the human realm, what we see from the Buddha is that he was just sitting under the Bodhi tree for 49 days. And the sutras that describe the life of the Buddha, it did not describe so much about what he was actually doing for those 49 days. And most people think, oh, maybe he was just dwelling in his meditative bliss, the bliss of enlightenment for 49 days. Well, actually, this is not true. The Buddha had already begun to expound the Dharma while he was sitting under the Bodhi tree. Another sutra that describes this clearly. So the Buddha was actually expounding the Avatamsaka Sutra. This is the richest, the most comprehensive, the most also complicated Buddhist sutras, and one of the most important Mahayana sutras. All Dharma gates stem from the Avatamsaka Sutra. So the full name of the Avatamsaka Sutra is called Mahayana Buddha Sutra. In Chinese, 大方广佛华严经. So Mahayana is also the name for Mahayana sutras. And Avatamsaka can be translated as a flower adornment, a flower ornament. So the legendary translator Thomas Clary actually translated the 40 volumes of Avatamsaka Sutra. There is actually the 80 volumes, which I don't think he translated that. So what's so important about the Avatamsaka Sutra is that the Buddha was expounding really the Buddha's levels, the Buddha field, all this comprehensive knowledge and wisdom to all the great bodhisattvas in the Dharma realm. So the Dharma realm is like all the realms of existence, all of the cosmos. So the sutras describes an infinite realms upon realms where there were infinite Buddhas and bodhisattvas and also other beings. This is really mind-blowing. There is a saying in Buddhism, in Mahayana Buddhism, is that you don't know the richness of the Buddha's teachings until you have read the Avatamsaka Sutra. So I have read the Avatamsaka Sutra, the 80 volumes, from beginning to the end when I was staying at Zhenling Temple with the monks. But it was too complicated, so I did not understand most of them because it was really, you can think about it as like the highest level of knowledge and wisdom. I'm really very much looking forward to, after I go to the Pure Land, this will be the first sutra that I'll study. Here on earth, it's too difficult, so I just focus on the Pure Land practice. Well, after I go to the Pure Land, I will study the Avatamsaka Sutra. So this sutra was actually obtained by Bodhisattva Nagarjuna from the Dragon's Palace. So we talked about the story before when we shared the life of Bodhisattva Nagarjuna, the founder of Mahayana school. So he also attained rebirth in the Pure Land. Now, why is this sutra so important also for Pure Land practitioners? So some people said, if the method of Nianfo, Amitabha recitation, is so easy, why didn't the Buddha first expound this method after enlightenment? Why didn't he just tell people to Nianfo and attain rebirth in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land? Wouldn't that be the easiest? actually the Buddha did. The Buddha did in the Avatamsaka Sutra while he was sitting under the Bodhi tree for 49 days in meditation. He was already expounding the Pure Land practice. But he didn't do that to the human realm because although the Pure Land practice is the easiest in terms of practice, but it's actually the most difficult to believe. A lot of people think, how is it possible you recite the name of Amitabha Buddha with faith and vow, then you can attain rebirth in his Pure Land? So a lot of people find it very difficult to believe. So although it's easy to practice, but it's difficult to believe. You actually need a lot of good merit, karma, blessings and virtue to actually fully believe in this practice. So that's why the Buddha first did not expound this practice to the human realm. He began with the more easy to understand, and such as the Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path, the 12 Links of Dependent Origination. These teachings are more suitable for the beings to accept at the beginning. But actually in the very beginning, the Buddha already talked about this Pure Land practice to all the great bodhisattvas in the Dharma realm. So how do we know about that? Because the last chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra is called the Practices and Vows of Bodhisattva Samadhi. So we also talk about the 10 great practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samadhi before when I was giving like a lecture on this. But in the near future, I'll also do them in like short videos format, so it's easier for people to understand. So the practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samadhi is also one of the 5 Pure Land Sutras. In this sutra, it describes the 10 great practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samadhi. Now, for any Bodhisattva that want to realize perfect Buddhahood, you must practice the 10 great practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samadhi. This is a must. It's extremely important for any Mahayana practitioners. Even after we go to the Pure Land, we will also continue to practice the 10 great practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samadhi. So in it, Bodhisattva Samadhi explained all the 10 great practices and vows to the student Sudana, and also Samadhi said, me and also Manjushri will lead all the Bodhisattvas in the flower treasure world to all attain rebirth in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. So the Pure Land practice is not only for like people with maybe average roots like me, like I can't attain enlightenment in this life, so I kneel for and attain rebirth in the Pure Land, but also for great bodhisattvas like Samadhi, like Manjushri, like they all are actually the highest level of enlightened bodhisattvas, but they still want to attain rebirth in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land, because this is the fastest track for them to realize Buddhahood, and also because they are really showing us, since we are practicing the bodhisattva path, this is what we ought to follow. So I talked about before how all Dharma gates stem from the Avatamsaka Sutra. All the teachings of the Buddha, you can all find them in Avatamsaka Sutra. Avatamsaka Sutra is huge, like 80 volumes, but actually what's available in the human realm is still very limited. So you can find all the teachings of the Buddha in the Avatamsaka Sutra, and eventually at the end of the sutra, it tells you to kneel for and to go to Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. So all Dharma gates stem from the Avatamsaka Sutra, and all Dharma gates will eventually lead to the Pure Land practice, the Pure Land Dharma gate. Can you see how unsurpassed, how supreme is the Pure Land Dharma gate? This is really the highest teachings. This is really why Shakyamuni Buddha come to earth, is really to tell us to realize Buddhahood. The teachings, the method that the Buddha really want to teach is actually the Pure Land method, the Pure Land teachings. That's why in the Amitabha Sutra, the Buddha expounded the sutra without anybody asking, because no one could ask about the Pure Land or Amitabha Buddha, like only at the levels of the Buddhas, and the Buddha can know. So the Buddha really want to teach this method, but because this is difficult to believe, so difficult to believe, like the Buddha said in the Amitabha Sutra, so that's why he had to first lay all this foundation before he can give the teachings in the human realm. But actually he was already giving the teachings to the great bodhisattvas in the Dharma realm, because the bodhisattvas will of course accept that kind of teachings. It's not difficult to believe for great bodhisattvas like Samadhi, like Manjushri. They all give rise to faith and vow to attain rebirth in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. But it can be quite challenging, quite difficult to believe for a lot of beings here on earth, like including some Buddhists. Sometimes I receive messages from practitioners that telling me, oh, Jiawen, I sometimes have faith in Amitabha, sometimes I don't. So, difficult to believe Dharma. This is normal. So the Buddha knows that. That's why he had to lay down all these foundations, like the earliest Buddhist teachings, Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Paths, Travelings of Dependent Origination, the Mahayana teachings like Shunyata, like Bodhicitta, like all these great teachings before he tells you about Nianfo, about Amitabha Buddha. Right? Had the Buddha not talked about all those things before, maybe it's also not easy for us to give rise to faith in Amitabha Buddha. Like imagine the Buddha after enlightenment, and then he came out and then he just told people, oh, you only need to Nianfo with faith and vow to go to Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. Like, who would believe him? I trust nobody. I wouldn't believe. But for the Buddha actually talk about all these teachings beforehand, like the teachings that really make sense, really logical beforehand, and then he told us about Amitabha Buddha, and of course it's easier for me to believe in it, for us to believe in it, because we really believe that the Buddha is a completely enlightened being and he would not lie. That's why he would not lie to us. He would tell us the truth. So although maybe we cannot see it or we don't comprehend completely, but we believe in his words because we know that he's really, truly a complete enlightened being and he would not lie to us. Okay, so for those who are interested, I highly recommend you to go and read about the Avatamsaka Sutra. It's really a mind-blowing, eye-opening experience, and you will know how little you actually know about the Buddha's teachings, like how little we know, also how little that is actually available in the human realm. So after we go to the Pure Land, we will have more opportunity to study the more advanced Dharma teachings and wisdom. So he actually expounded the Avatamsaka Sutra for 21 days to the great bodhisattvas in the Dharma realm. And then after that, he contemplated, what he had realized, like his teachings is actually quite difficult to understand. We talked about before how truth cannot really be described or spoken by mere words or comprehend by this analytical mind. So the Buddha thought maybe I should just say nothing. And then Brahma, so Lord Brahma, knew about the Buddha's thinking and came down to back the Buddha to really share the Dharma, because he said there are also some beings who are ready to receive his teachings, whose good roots or karma have matured. So he should really expound the Dharma for them. And the Buddha also agreed. Now, a word about who is Lord Brahma. So the Lord Brahma is the Lord of the Saha world. So he's a heavenly being who resides in the third level of the first dhyana, heaven, in the form realm. So we also discuss about all these realms before when we talk about the Buddhist cosmology. So Lord Brahma is not a creator of the world. Like in Hinduism, they may regard Brahma as a creator of the world, like creator God. Actually, the Buddha also criticized Brahma to think like that. There was a sutra or a few sutras where the Buddha criticized the Brahma to think that he is the creator God because he had extremely long lifespan. So then he thinks he is actually immortal, and he thinks maybe he creates the world. And the Buddha said, if you create the world, did you also create all the sufferings, the miseries, the pain, the ugliness, the evilness? And then he said, oh, actually no. So he admitted that he was not the creator of the world. So no one is capable of creating everything in the world. We are really the product of our own karma, of our own thoughts, speech, and actions. If there is a creator, it's your mind. You create your own world. This samsara is also created by our ignorant mind. So let's pause also a little bit. Imagine the Lord Brahma did not invite the Buddha to turn the Dharma wheel, and will the Buddha not turn the Dharma wheel? So the Buddha will definitely turn the Dharma wheel. That's why he came down here to manifest as Siddhartha, to share the teachings to all beings. But why it's actually important for someone to actually invite the Buddha before he turned the Dharma wheel? So it will make us feel that the Dharma is actually very precious. It's not cheap. It's not like the Buddha just like giving out the Dharma like all the time, like no one asking for it, no one like actually wants to know. No, it's because people want to learn. So that's why we should invite the teachers to turn the Dharma wheel. In the 10 practices and vows of Bodhisattva Samadhi, it's also one of the vows is called to invite the Buddha to turn the Dharma wheel. Now, we don't really live at a time where the Buddha is still in the world, so if you know any good Dharma teachers, you should also invite them to turn the Dharma wheel. Through the invitation, it also shows that we have the respect for the teachings. The teachings are really precious. Dharma is the most precious thing in the world. The 3 jewels are the most precious thing in the world. Nothing can surpass that. So that's why it's important to invite the Buddha or good Dharma teachers to turn the Dharma wheel, so more beings in the world can hear about the Dharma and can have the chance to obtain liberation. So that's why Lord Brahma invited the Buddha to turn the Dharma wheel. So infinite merit to Lord Brahma for doing so. So we have the chance to listen to the Buddha's teachings. Okay, so then the Buddha started to think about, okay, who I should first turn the Dharma wheel to? Who has these good roots to actually accept my teachings? And he thought about his last teacher before he realized enlightenment, Udraka Ramaputra. So we talk about how Udraka Ramaputra practiced this meditation called neither perception nor non-perception. So what happened to him was that he already gave up his physical body 7 days beforehand, and he attained rebirth in the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, the highest level of heaven in the formless realm. So the Buddha also knew about that. Okay, he had already passed 7 days ago, and then he contemplated. So how long was the lifespan in the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception? And it was 84,000 Mahakalpas. So the Buddha possesses all-encompassing wisdom. He is omniscient. There is no doubt about that. This is one of the qualities of the Buddha. So how did he know everything? It's actually our true mind, the Dharma body, the Tathagata, the Gaba is actually everywhere. So that's why he has the ability to know absolutely about everything, to know about everything correctly. There is really no doubt about this. Okay, so if he want to find out some answers, so he will contemplate, and then this will reflect back directly. So it's like a great mirror. You ask the mirror something, the mirror reflects back. It's kind of like that. So he contemplated about the lifespan in the sphere of neither perception or non-perception. It's 84,000 Mahakalpas. And he also contemplated about where would he go after his lifespan had finished. He saw that he would fall into the animal realm to be a flying raccoon. And when the teacher was a flying raccoon, he would kill many lives, like he would eat fish, he will catch the birds in the sky, and he will also indulge in lust. And after that, he will fall into the hell realm. Now, why would this teacher actually become a flying raccoon? Because in the previous life, when he was practicing this meditation, he sometimes got disturbed by fish or the birds in the forest, and he felt very annoyed when he was disturbed, and he vowed to actually kill them all in the future. So because of this evil vow that he made, after his lifespan had finished, in the sphere of neither perception or non-perception, he would fall down to be a flying raccoon to kill all these fish and birds. So that's why we had to really be careful of our thoughts, our evil thoughts, evil vows, and what you wish might have come true, and what you think you become. So the Buddha really pitied Uddaka Ramaputra because he was such a good person with good roots. He already obtained this highest level of meditative concentration in the externalist teachings. If he could just listen to the Buddha's teachings a little bit, he would definitely quickly get it and could attain arahant to exit the cycle of samsara. But unfortunately, he passed just before the Buddha realized enlightenment. So he was really missing this time. So it's really not easy to be born during the time of the Buddha. One of the misfortunes is that to be born before or after the Buddha. So now we are still fortunate that we are in the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha. The Dharma will be in the world for a total of 12,000 years. So now we are at the beginning of the Dharma ending age. So we still have a bit of time to actually listen to the Dharma, to practice the Dharma, and to exit the cycle of samsara. So we are still quite fortunate to have these blessings, to be born in this time, in this human body. If we are here but not in this human body, then we also cannot really hear the Dharma, and that's really unfortunate. So he couldn't expand the Dharma to his last teacher, and then he thought about his first teacher before he realized enlightenment. So he thought, okay, where did he go? So his first teacher also passed away 3 days ago, and he attained rebirth in the sphere of nothingness. We also discussed this before, because he practiced this nothingness meditation, and after that he attained rebirth in the sphere of nothingness. And he contemplated about the lifespan in the sphere of nothingness is 63,000 Mahakapas. And after that, he would born as a king in the borderland. So a borderland, it's like a country where there is no Dharma. For instance, the present day, maybe like Iran, you can't really find Buddhism in Iran nowadays. But before, maybe in the 2nd century, you could, but not really nowadays. So we call the country where there is no Dharma the borderland. So after he became a king in the borderland, he will fall into the hell realm. So again, this teacher also missed the opportunity to listen to the Buddha's teachings, and the Buddha also really pitied him. It's like both of the teachers, they have wasted their human life, and we talk about how extremely rare and difficult it is to actually obtain a human life in the cycle of reincarnation. And we should really treasure this opportunity and to live for and to attain rebirth in the Pure Land, so to realize Buddhahood in one lifetime. Okay, so he couldn't expand the Dharma to both of these teachers, and then he thought about Kondinya and his group. So Kondinya and the 4 other colleagues of his, they followed the Buddha when the Buddha was practicing the ascetic practice for 6 years. So, and after that, they were disgusted by the Buddha for receiving the meal offerings. And they thought, the Buddha had lost his determination, and they left the Buddha. And the Buddha saw that now these 5 people are actually in sannyas, so he was going to go to sannyas to expound the Dharma to them. And when he arrived at Sanath, Deer Park, it's near the city of Varanasi. So the 5 people initially didn't want to stand up to receive him, but for some mysterious force, they all stood up and welcomed the Buddha. And the Buddha began his first turning of the Dharma Wheel in the human realm. He explained the 4 Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, the 12 links of dependent origination. And Kundinya was the first to realize enlightenment. He was an arahant. And all the other 4 also later realized enlightenment quickly after hearing the Buddha's teachings. So there was the first Sangha that was born in the human realm. So there was the Buddha, the Dharma, the Buddha's teachings, and the Sangha. So this was the first establishment of the 3 jewels in the human world. And after that, the Buddha also went on to share his teachings to those people who were ready, such as Yasha. Yasha was raised in an extremely wealthy family in the city of Varanasi, and the Buddha observed that his time was ready to receive his teachings, and the Buddha went to him to explain the teachings to him, and he quickly understood the teaching and also realized enlightenment. He was also the 6th Arahant. And Yasha also brought his best friend to the Buddha, and also a further 50 of his friends to join the Sangha. Yasha's father also became the first Upasaka. Upasaka is a lay male Buddhist. And then Yasha's mother and his wife also became the very first Upasika. So Upasika is a female lay Buddhist. And after that, the Buddha went on to convert the externalist teachers such as the 3 Kashyapa brothers. And then also later Mahakashyapa, Shariputra, Mahayana, all this now we all know as Buddha's great disciples. They all joined the Buddha Sangha. So the Buddha Sangha was quite huge at that time. They were a total of 1,250 disciples that followed the Buddha constantly. So the Buddha tirelessly expounded Dharma for a total of 49 years after he realized enlightenment, or some say 45 years. So it doesn't matter about the number, but most importantly, we knew that what the Buddha did every day was to expound the Dharma, to turn the Dharma wheel, to try to awaken sentient beings. The Buddha was really an incredible teacher, really the greatest teacher who worked tirelessly and selflessly for the benefit of all sentient beings. Because of the Buddha's teachings, countless beings can walk the path of awakening, including us. So we can exit the cycle of reincarnation in one lifetime and to realize our true nature, which is infinite light, infinite life. So the great Tiantai master, Master Zhizhe or Zhiyi, he is regarded as the incarnation of Shakyamuni Buddha in China. So he divided or classified the Buddha's teachings into these 5 periods. So first is the period of Avatamsaka, where the Buddha was expounding the Dharma to great bodhisattvas in the Dharma realm by his highest teachings. So this was for 21 days when he was sitting under the Bodhi tree while in meditation. And the second period is the period of Agama. So Agama is like the earliest Buddhist teachings, like we see the teachings in Theravada Buddhism, but also include in Mahayana Buddhism. Whatever it's taught in Theravada, it's also all under Mahayana. So it's the earliest Buddhist teachings such as the 4 Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, the 12 links of dependent origination. And the third period is the period of Mahavipura. Mahavipura means the Mahayana teachings. So such as the Amitabha Sutra, the Infinite Life Sutra, the Visualization Sutra, all these Pure Land teachings can fall under this period. And the fourth period is the period of Prajna. So Prajna, we also talk about briefly before, is the transcendent wisdom of Shunyata, emptiness. Sutras such as the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, the Prajnaparamita Sutra all fall under this period. And the last period is the period of the Lotus Sutra and the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. So the Lotus Sutra really revealed to us that all the three vehicles, the vehicle of Shravaka, like sound hearers, like Arahant, the vehicle of Pratyeka Buddha, the vehicle of Bodhisattva, all the three are just really skillful means. There is just really one vehicle, that is the Buddha vehicle. The reason why the Buddha manifests in our world is really to try to lead us to Buddhahood. But this can be a bit too difficult or too much too soon for some beings. So that's why the Buddha devised all kinds of different teachings, the so-called skillful means, to help beings with different faculties and abilities. The sound hearer's vehicle, the Shravaka, Arahant, this is kind of like an illusory capital the Buddha manifested for people to rest and recuperate. And once they feel ready, again they need to generate the unsurpassed bodhicitta to walk the bodhisattva path and to realize the perfect Buddhahood. So that is sort of the key message from the Lotus Sutra. Okay, so we have briefly discussed and concluded how the Buddha turned the Dharma Wheel. So in the next video, we're going to talk about the Buddha's parinirvana, his final stage of manifestation in the human realm. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Amitabhaya.